Ladies and gentlemen, please let me introduce you the preliminary results of a rescue archaeological excavation on the construction of the new museum building of Slovak Museum in Uherské Hradiště. The excavation was carried out in cooperation of the Moravian Museum and the Slovak Museum. The excavation took place in January and February 2020 in the archaeologically significant early medieval site na Valách, and was started after several skeleton graves were disrupted during the machine excavation. The site has already been archaeologically investigated in the 1940s and 50s by Wilhelm Hrubý, who discovered the first known Great Moravian church here, and since then more than 2,000 graves have been unearthed at the site. The discovery of more graves was therefore a great surprise. Here you can see the projection of the graves to the cadastral map. And to the original burial ground plan made by Wilhelm Hrubý in 1955. The site is a part of a church burial ground from the Great Moravian period, dated to the 9th century with overlaps to the 8th and 10th centuries. The graves lay in the gravel bedrock of the first tributaries of Morava River. Their pits were oriented mostly from the northwest to southeast or from southwest to northeast, and with exceptions were not noticeable at the surface. It was subsequently found out that the disturbed graves were located on the boundaries of the excavation seasons, while there was, however, no connection between the investigated sites. So the graves escaped discovery in the past. Human skeleton remains come from 7 graves, in which 8 individuals were identified. When unearthed, the bones were cleaned and anthropologically examined. Here you can see an overview of the anthropological methods used. Unfortunately, as the discovery of more graves wasn't expected, the skeletal material from most of them was severely damaged during the machine excavation. I will now try to briefly introduce you to the highlights of individual graves. In the first grave, we came across an 8 to 9-year-old child laid in the supine position facing southeast. The skeleton was not very well preserved. Moreover, the skull was damaged by the digger. There were no signs of pathological changes except for dental enamel hypoplasia on the lower permanent incisors, which is considered a marker of non-specific stress during childhood, such as weaning, starving, infections, etc. The most interesting thing about this grave was the grave goods. 3 complete grape-shaped silver earrings and a fragment of the 4th one, a decorative button called gombík, made of bronze or copper, and an iron knife. The photograph shows that only the incomplete skull and fragments of the upper limbs were preserved from the grave number 2. The other parts of the skeleton were not found, probably were destroyed by the excavator. It was possible to determine that it was a 15 to 17-year-old individual, probably of the female sex. Also on this girl's teeth, dental enamel hypoplasia was found. She was also equipped with jewelry. 2 pairs of silver earrings were found in the grave, in this case decorated with globes. Another young girl of 15 years of age lay in the supine position on the grave number 3. Her teeth were also affected by linear enamel hypoplasia and dental calculus. was found on the upper molars. In addition, orbital cribera were noted on both orbital roofs. This grave contained the richest goods of all of the graves uncovered during this excavation. There were 8 gold-plated silver grape-shaped earrings in various stages of preservation, and an iron knife. Therefore, we suppose that this young girl belonged to the absolute elite of the Great Moravian society. As in the previous case of grave number 2, only the skull remains from the skeleton in grave 4. The postcranial skeleton hasn't been preserved. It probably belonged to a female in her 20s or early 30s, who, despite her young age, suffered from multiple severe dental defects. You can see caries affecting 2 molars. Abnormal vascular impression were noted on the endocranial surface of the skull, and the osteoporosis of the right temporal bone showed signs of inflammation. Near the skull, the fragments of 3 grape-shaped and 1 globe-shaped earring were found. That's the best preserved one. The grave pit of grave number 5 was damaged by a recent object, and therefore some parts of the skeleton were dislocated. The grave belonged to the man from 40 to 60 years old, of slightly below average body height. Except for interrelatal tooth loss, a shallow lesion of 8 to 10 millimeters in diameter with an uneven porous surface and signs of a reparative process on the edges was noted on the popliteal surface of the right femur. It could be a healing injury or some vascular pathology. This was the only grave without grave goods. The grave number 6 was discovered under very dramatic circumstances. The digger disturbed the grave almost completely. The operator loaded part of the skeleton to the back of the dump truck, then noticed the other part of the skeleton in the second bucket of the machine and put its content back in place. Thus, it happened the bones were traced in the heap of dirt, and then the pit with more bones from the bucket was examined until it was possible to recover part of the lower limbs in the skeleton in situ. During anthropological analysis, skeletal remains of 2 individuals were found. The first one was an elderly woman, and the second, the 3-year-old child. Therefore, we can not rule out the possibility that originally this was a double grave. The adult female suffered from multiple dental defects and osteoarthritis in the interphalangeal joints of her foot. Of the child's skeleton, only a few bone fragments and 1 tooth have been preserved. Using a metal detector, 1 silver grape-shaped earring was recovered. And the best at last, an exceptionally well-preserved skeleton was found in grave number 7. It belonged to a young girl, aged from 15 to 16 years, placed in the supine position with extended extremities, oriented from southwest to northeast. Her estimated stature was about 160 centimeters. What primarily drew our attention to this grave was the pathologies we found. The third cervical vertebra was probably destroyed by a pathological process, and the spinal process of the second cervical vertebra points up instead of down, which is normal. The corresponding process of the fourth cervical vertebra is compressed somewhat downwards. On the affected surface of both spinal processes, the second and fourth vertebra, there were signs of ongoing pathological process that pushed them up and down. Furthermore, a calcified object was found in the region of the upper cervical spine. It's probably a fragment of original soft tissue. We suppose that the girl probably suffered from some type of neoplasm, which, due to its localization in the spinal canal, it could also be the cause of her death. In addition, she suffered from dental calculus and periodontitis. We found also linear enamel hypoplasia and caries. A bronze ring was found on the left hand and 5 pottery fragments on her chest. In conclusion, we can say the following. As no further archaeological discoveries were expected at the site, most of the graves were significantly damaged when the topsoil was removed. Their location on the edges of the research area at the time was probably the reason why the graves escaped the attention of archaeologists in the 1940s and 50s. 5 skeletons belonged to children and juveniles. Only 3 graves contained adult individuals, 2 females and 1 male. Only in 2 of them was it possible to calculate the body age. Dental enamel hypoplasia was present in almost all of the individuals studied, and in adults there was also dental caries and associated interradial tooth loss, dental calculus and periodontitis. Nutritional stress, such as anemia, is probably associated with the occurrence of porous lesions, such as cribia orbitalia. 1 probable case of neoplasm was noted. Almost all of the graves contained rich grave goods. The nature of the finds indicates that the graves belonged to representatives of the upper social class of the early medieval Moravia. From the chronological point of view, based on the findings, the graves can be dated to the younger phase of the burial ground na Valách, from the second half of the 9th century to the beginning of the 10th century. Thank you for your attention.
Everything was clear.